Welcome to High Powered Living Now. And we're reading from The Journey Continues Living Clean. Keys to Freedom. As we practice these principles in all our affairs, they gain traction in our lives and they start feeling more natural. For example, in the beginning, we may have to consciously practice being honest. As we continue this practice, we find dishonesty progressively more uncomfortable, perhaps even agonizing, and gradually we notice that honesty has become more normal to us. We are basically honest people, and we even like it. Some say this is how we know a higher power is involved. When our defects are removed, we may not feel them go. We may not even notice the change unless we fall back into old behavior and find that it is no longer comfortable or workable for us. We call our sponsor in distress over having done it again, or even because we are thinking about acting on that old defect and realize how long it has been since that behavior had crossed our minds. Learning to survive our impulses without acting out is a new freedom. Over time, the desire to act against our values begins to fade. Our self made prisons no longer serve us. We are free to explore and discover what we are good at. We are free to participate, create, care, and share. Surprise ourselves, take risks, be vulnerable, and stand on our own 2 feet. We find our beliefs and begin to act on them. We make decisions based on our values. We walk through fear and wake up to the miracles that surround us. We are free to be who we are and live as we choose. When we feel the deepest gratitude, we can look back and see that our path to that moment was neither short nor straight. What seemed like the worst decisions at one time in our recovery opened the door for some of our greatest opportunities later on. We may simply outgrow some of our decisions. What was right for us at one point in our recovery may not be right for the rest of our lives, but it can be difficult for us to move on. Gifts can come wrapped in such strange packages that we don't always recognize them when they arrive. Nothing that happens is entirely good or entirely bad. We do not pretend that there's no mistakes in recovery, but sometimes those mistakes can take us in a direction we hadn't thought of before. Recovery is not a standardizing cookie cutter process. We don't all got we don't all go through the process in the same way, and we don't all come out of it the same. But there are some familiar landmarks we pass. We have phases and stages, corners we turn, staircases we climb. Each of us has periods of intense growth and times when change is more subtle. Having a new way to live means that we have to live in new ways, and we can get confused or lost even when we have many years clean. Allowing each other room to grow at our own pace is difficult, especially when we care for each other. But self acceptance and self respect are the result of going through the process in our own way. Time is not the same as experience. Just because we have been here for a long time doesn't mean that we know everything we need to know. We don't graduate from the simple steps that keep us clean and free. Our lives continue to unfold. We start at different places and we grow at different paces. Time represents the opportunity for growth, but we still have to step up to the challenge and be open to the lessons. Practicing honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness keeps us teachable, grateful, and humble. The difference between humility and humiliation can be the level of acceptance we have about the information we get when we listen with an open mind. Anyone can carry a message to us. There are no unnecessary principles in A, though we may learn them in our own time and in our own order. We can't expect to find what we are looking for if we work some of the steps and not others, or if we are ignoring the traditions or living in conflict with our own values. Spiritual principles are not dependent on time or circumstance. We learn by observation and experience. There's a difference between feeling like we are so sick that we will never get better and knowing that we are never done growing or recovering. Exploration lasts a lifetime. We begin over and over. It gets easier to act in our own best interest, even when we are feeling resistant. A member shared, I often hear newcomers say that they can't imagine going to NA meetings for the rest of their lives. I had the same reservation, but today I can't imagine my life without NA. We learn to do what we have to do, as well as what we want to do. We don't always want to work our program, but we know the rewards we get when we take responsibility for our recovery and the consequences when we do not. New information can be hard for us to accept when it doesn't come to us in the way we think it should. Whether the information itself is surprising or the messenger is not someone who we usually look to for guidance, we may dismiss new ideas because we don't like the package. A member shared, I would stand on my head in a corner if my sponsor told me it would work. But when the words that could save my life come from someone I really don't care for, it's easy to dismiss them. New tools are available to us when we allow ourselves to be surprised by both the message and the messenger. If it brings us to reevaluate our belief system, so much the better. We can see our initial resistance as a reservation in our willingness. Trying new things in recovery is one way we keep ourselves from getting stuck. No matter how long we have been clean, we can go to meetings and listen for the music. It's like when your ear pops, a member shared. Suddenly I can hear what I didn't know I was missing before. Our traditions teach us that in NA, there are no classes of membership. It follows that the new member is likely to save the life of the old timer as the reverse. When we stay open to that reality, many of the limitations we set for ourselves disappear. We teach by example. Even when we are teaching what not to do, we are still carrying a message. Sharing our experience gives it meaning and value. Our hope is that the next member will do better than we did, that they can learn from our mistakes. It doesn't always work. We are people who tend to learn things the hard way. But when a member with 2 years clean shares with us that the experience we had in 10 years clean kept them from doing the same thing, we know that we are getting better personally and as a fellowship. Wisdom is building on experience to cope with new events. When we think about our lives now in contrast to our active addiction, it is important to remember that it is not where we have been that counts, but where we are going. But where we have been in recovery is the foundation of our wisdom. We learn from our experience and we use it to help others. Our wisdom grows as we learn to see ourselves honestly without judging or jumping to conclusions.